Well, might not power, because it's a reference to the Japanese.
See me different perspective. You're like we're writing like yours.
Mono no away. So it's reflective. Like do I write 8.5 so that we can see smart? So we see smart.
It sounds so annoying.
Wait,
reflective isn't self-reflective.
Inside some more.
Self-reflective.
Self-reflective or reflective?
Or it's called self-reflective. I've been trying to
wonder.
find out what the name is.
Okay, so self-reflective.
Wait, do you mean because it makes them aware that they're watching a movie, or it's because they're reflective because the film is?
I thought it's reflective because like you watch a film and you
That's a good point.
The taste of tea was the reflective one.
yeah, but I thought self-reflective means like
No, wait,
makes
so-
you aware it's a film.
Yeah, it makes you aware.
So
Yeah.
No, you know actually right,
Different
mono.
things, right?
Actually, mono no RRA actually means like you're aware of something. Mono means think. So you kind
Mono
of
means what?
Think.
no, it's like think.
Pensive.
So it was a hi. Basically, Godzilla is inspired by this incident where the U.S. Americans they put this nitrogen bomb thing at a river and it killed 23 men. It drenched 23 men. It's a protest against that.
And then
So very sneaky, your cinematography, sneaky sia. I noticed.
but
Also, I write yes.
One is period film, but the mafia also use gun or the gangster.
Yeah. As in they use
They use parang. So parang one the.
but not. It's not a.
Japanese also use guns.
They really use shot.
And roll.
So the first question is compare and contrast samurai and Hong Kong mafia. So we have found the similarities. Both of them do honor death, but the difference is for Japanese, their death is normally slowly and like they make it quite beautiful. But Hong Kong one is quite fast. And one example is this.
This is a Hong Kong example.
Japanese honor the death during the dying process, but Hong Kong honor the death during funerals. So the last question is what's the differences? The main difference is their weapon. For samurai they use the sword, but Hong Kong mafia they use gun.
Roll.
So our first question is why samurai still exist in Japanese films, right? Because of the cultural icon. Like it's they develop it from the past. They learn it from the past. So it's about pride, about unique, and to prove to be commercially successful, right? So does the genre reflect hidden ideals? Yes. Like example, beautiful deaths. Because in society people are afraid to die, so they hope that their death will be remarkable. And then samurais represent deeply rooted tradition values as well. Like for example, like Japanese people like to bow, they like to greet. So they learn from them, which they're also very nice. These are examples for sample films. Movie is Zatoichi.
Don't tell me.
Movie is Zatoichi.
For example, he fights for the people that he met. Like to him, it's correct. Like they were wronged by another the people who killed their family. So he wanted to help them. So
three,
which I think goes back to the.
one.
So it goes
Honor and
back to this
justice.
question.
Time. Roll.
Okay, our first question is why the West are paying homage to Japanese inspired films, okay? Basically, last time the Hollywood system, right, they were making big budget films and they have come to a stagnant point where they know that a sequels doesn't work. So people were sick of seeing the same cock and again. So what happens, they picked, no, I mean not porno lah. I'm just using to make it funny, okay? So they went to films, Japan films which will make money. So they decided to remake their films. And how do? They don't really exactly remake it. Sometimes they extract all the important elements, the stylized elements from the films, and they do it to their own plot structure so that their own people can relate to it. And why do they do it? Because it works, it gives them money. Basically, movie making is all about making money, right? And attracting the audience. That's the reason why they do it. Then the compare Next one, compare the contrast
5,
movies.
4, 3,
These are the movies.
1. Time. 1. Roll.
Okay, so the main thing why Japanese horror is scary is because you feel that you're in the film itself. And why do you feel in the film itself? Because first thing, you understand the grudge of the monster. So like that's the first thing. And second thing, right, is the technical like of the film. So like you have the sound, and then you have like the lighting is like very dim, and then like somehow or rather, right, the pacing is very slow. It's like you're on suspense like most of the time. So this is some of the samples. And
oh shit. Okay, as for the Shinto religion, okay, in Japan they follow two religions. One is Buddhism and Shinto. And the thing is that they are not very strict about religion. So they are quite flexible. And as for the Shinto, right, like they believe that if the person who died is not happy, before the person died they are not happy, the soul will come back again. So they follow such thing, and because of that, those people who follow Shinto religion, right, they are very scared about this thing.
2,
yeah.
1. Time. Roll.
Oh, Japanese people like kaiju films. Why? Because boom, boom, special effects. You see the monster, the lightning, everything. And then why do they like these kaiju monsters? Because from young, they learn about this folklore. It's ingrained into them. Then like, what? It's not just the monster itself, not just one big scary Abdul. It's what does Abdul represent? And for this kaiju, they represent like what the issues that the Japanese people face. And also because of the goodwill and belief that good will triumph over evil, blah blah blah, fantasy. And why does this relate to anti-war? Because Godzilla is the bomb. We fear the bomb. And like, we protest against the Americans for using it because they cannot rabak. Nagasaki, Hiroshima.
Rabak?
They cannot rabak. And his man's arrogance in controlling the nuclear power. And is it big red? Obviously, Suit Nation. Then the miniatures damn fake. Then the matte painting background. Then now they try to make it new with CGI, but it looks like PlayStation.
2,
and the plots
1.
always the same thing.
Time. 1. Roll.
Our first question is, why do you think there are still some films dealing with mono no are? Our reasoning is because we want the Japanese want people to take films to another perspective. When you were assigned this assignment, right, you were given a piece of paper, right, and then you were just thinking that it's just a canvas for you to write something on, and then like now you're aware that it's like actually a piece of paper, so that you can like you're aware of it. That's mono no are, okay?
Okay, and then the second question: do you think it's an overly done artistic hogwash that means nothing to the consumers? Yes and no. Yes, it's overly done because mono no aware, it's not catered to everyone. It's catered to a specific audience, film appreciators, hipsters. And no, it's not overly done because it does respect the art of film.
Okay, why you should see is because it's not like conventional filmmaking, like mainstream audience. Like I said, it's like for hipsters, like you want to act smart, you want to look smart. Okay, I tell people I watch mono no aware, I think that's smart. Okay, and then also like they let you like appreciate life. You're empathetic about life.
5,
like the flower, look at the flower, you appreciate the flower.
3,
Yeah, that's it.
2, 1. Roll.
So how is it different? Well, our director combines tradition and modern methods. So in the first point, he goes sick of, okay, from here he takes the old cartoon movie and bends them in a new unexpected way. So the traditional ways to expand elaborate one of the points, he uses leftist aspects of the movie, for example the oppressed peasants, the threatened villagers, and combines them with like Ted dancing and stuff like that. So moving on to Zixiang.
So in terms of filmmaking style, right, director Kitano, he grew impatient with the limitations of genre filmmaking. So for Jedi films, right, he demands more movement for a camera. And second point.
Okay, so hi. Okay, so anyways, what are the visual elements were, right? So basically they use CG and CG blood and body parts. So like, you know those scenes where like the guy was cutting, then you don't see the guy cutting, you see like a POV of him cutting, and then blah blah blah, you see like all these blood spurts and the guy's hand flying out. Okay, yeah, then other than that there's like no cross dressing in the traditional samurai.
In traditional samurai.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, then there's a gun lah. Yeah,
it
doesn't get any more modern than that lah. Okay, moving on.
Okay, for the similarities between
5,
Satoshi and
4,
the okay, there are
3,
one character that will fight
2,
everyone. There is someone
1.
found before the fight.
Interpretation of the murder. But the thing is that at the end of the whole film, right, like when I tell you this kind of thing, you say, okay, so who's the liar and like what actually really happened. But actually the film does not conclude anything of that. I'm sorry to spoil it for you lah, but actually right, it does not reveal the action of the film, but it reveals the characters. So why is it like this? This is the wife who got raped, the one with the kind of funny eyebrows. But like she said that she got raped and then she didn't like the look in her husband's eyes, so she fainted. But some people like deduce that she was the one who killed her husband. So she's like kind of admitting that she did kill her husband. And then this guy is the bandit, played by Toshiro Mifune. He's like some really funny, happy, cheerful, vulgar bandit guy. But he also admits that he kills the samurai. And this is the poor samurai who gets killed.
The origins of anime is before even narrative art forms came about, there were these woodblock prints and books. Basically, woodblock is like if you ever took art classes, you take those potatoes and then you cut and then you dip it in and then you stamp it. So it's sort of like stamping. The way they did this was they either use the chisel, a knife, or sandpaper, right? And then they cut out the patterns or the design onto a piece of wood. And then they ink it and then they print it onto the paper. So it's like a printing process. More specifically, the Japanese way they do it is they actually draw the design first onto a piece of paper called washi. And then they glue it onto the block. Usually the block is cherry wood. And then
the picture you sent me is the next slide.
Oh, the next slide, okay. Yeah, so this is what woodblock looks like basically. So this is usually cherry wood. They put it on here. And then they use something like a disc with a handle to ink it, and then they paste it on. And then the intricate part, the more difficult part of it is if you want to do, I'm going to next slide first. If you want to do something like this, where there are multiple colors and everything, you have to use multiple wood blocks, which means every shade of color is a different wood block, different parts of the image is carved out to it. So it's very intricate. And the way they did this was they have on the image, I don't know where it is here, but they have like sections with markers to align it properly so you can print it properly. So yeah, it's a very difficult process. And yeah, now go on to this guy, Katsushika Hokusai. So he was one of the great masters of woodblock. Okay, wait a sec. Okay, he was what you call a ukiyo-e artist, which means floating world artist, pictures of the floating world. And it's aimed at the merchant class of the people in the Edo period, meaning like those, they were very hedonistic at the time, so they were involved in all the worldly pleasures, like a lot of brothels, a lot of watching dramas, sumo wrestling, all that stuff. So the pictures mainly focused on like kabuki actors, sumo wrestlers, landscape, flora and fauna, and beautiful women. And then, so Hokusai wasn't his original name actually. Within his lifespan, he went through about, I think, if I'm not wrong, 20 over names. Because it's very common for Japanese artists to change their names. And, so he the unique thing about him is, he's one of the only few woodblock makers who actually influenced internationally, not just Japan. Because the reason for this is he himself studied Dutch and French, basically Western art himself, and while many others were very rigid and refused to study that. And so he applied it to his own, especially involving perspectives and all that, to create this art, which is one of the most famous artwork in Japan, and for woodblock, this almost internationally famous pictures. This is called The Great Wave of Kanagawa. And it's a series, this is the first of 36 pictures called Views of Mount Fuji, which are all woodblock paintings, and they became very internationally recognized because they are so intricate and so well done. And okay, also to note, before I end is, he's the father of manga. He created the book series called the Mangala basically, and which means whimsical drawings or impromptu sketches. They were not narrative format yet, but it preceded all that because it was basically like this was his manga series, but just drawings which led the way to narrative mangas in the future. So yeah, and so that's about Hokusai. Okay, one more fun fact about him: he was a master of bullshit. At a competition with another artist, his competitor was a traditional brushstroke painter, and then for him, what he did was he took out this piece of paper, he drew on the floor one giant brushstroke of just one blue brushstroke. Then he dipped the feet in red paint. Then he chased the chicken across the paper, and then he said, "Look, I made a landscape showing the Tatsuta River with maple leaves floating inside." and then he won the competition. So yeah, so that's him for you, and that's the end of my.
Well done.